This is the phone. Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm sorry, we're just having some technical difficulties earlier, so we're just trying to figure that out, so appreciate your patience. Thank you for joining us today, in person and online. My name is Shaheen Khan. I am one of the co-chairs of ICPC, the Intercongregational Partnership Committee, along with my co-chair here, Evelyn Gensglass from BJC, and Judy Ozone from BHPC. Judy will be leaving, and we will have our new co-chair from BHPC, Brigitte. So we are welcome, Brigitte. So the ICPC really try and bring events and activities that can bring us together, just learn from one another, and also this event especially, I think, is something that I've really been looking forward to because it highlights the work that these everyday heroes have been doing in our community. It's incredible work that they've been doing, and I'm sure as we leave today, we'll all be inspired to take action. With that, I will let Ayrush Faiz, who is from MIIC, Maqam Ibrahim, to take the lead. She will be leading this discussion today, this panel. And later on, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask the panelists. So she will be doing the introductions. And thank you once again for coming.
Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Ayrush Faiz. Like Shaheen mentioned, I'm a member of the MIIC, but I'm kind of the bridge between various groups. I've been very active in the Bethesda Chevy Chase community, helping a lot of refugee families. At the same time, I've been working closely with Larry, who you will hear the amazing work he's been doing, helping provide transportation for a lot of families and newcomers in the area. And I've also been working with Brigida and Evelyn and the ICPC Interfaith Congregation, helping in any way that I can through the group here as well. I will introduce our panelists here, and then I will tell you guys a little bit about how I've been involved with the families in the area. So we have Evelyn and Brigida in the middle, who are some of the founding members of the ICPC interfaith group here at the Bradley Hills Presbyterian Church, and they've been doing amazing work prior to me joining the group here and moving in the area. Evelyn is a longtime BJC member with another BJC and BHPC members. She and her husband initiated the Interfaith Refugee Project about 9 years ago, and she and Brigida have led the project for much of its existence. Since 2024, Evelyn has been the BJC co-chair of the Intercongregational Partnership Committee, and she serves on the BJC board as well. Brigida is also another long time, like I mentioned, one of the founding members of the BHPC, or the the Interfaith Refugee Project, and she's a member of the BHPC. She grew up in Germany. Brigida and Evelyn have co-chaired the Interfaith Refugee Initiative since 2016, and she retired from her pediatric practice about 5 years ago. And next to me here is the wonderful Larry Johnson, who's been doing a lot of charitable work in different capacities for most of his life. Larry had a career rebuilding broken down houses, from helping build homes after the Hurricane Katrina and distributing insulin to patients, to getting involved with the refugee resettlement in the DMV area by providing transportation. He's been involved in many of the refugee resettlement projects. Besides Bridge the Gap, which he will talk about today and tell you guys what he's been doing with cars, Larry volunteers with Nourishing Bethesda as their operations manager, where they feed about 300 people every Friday. Now, if you can bring us the slide, Ashia, please, that would be great. So I want to tell you guys how I started getting involved with the refugee work. On the left, the picture you see is me on August 15th when Afghanistan fell to the hands of the Taliban. And I, like many other Afghans that were in the diaspora and had dreams to go back to Afghanistan and work there, and in many capacities, found ourselves with no home and no families, and it was a very, very dark place for a lot of us. So there were days I couldn't eat, for days I couldn't sleep. I had families that had worked with the U.S. Army and U.S. military that I felt like were going to be hurt, and I couldn't do anything for them. A week after the evacuations started in Afghanistan, I got a call from the Department of State saying, we need linguists as soon as possible. Can you please come and work with us at Fort Pickett, which was in Quantico, actually. Initially, I started at Quantico. So I thought, if I'm just going to sit here and cry every day, I'd rather just go and do something for those who have made it out. So I started working. The picture you see on the right is Quantico. Initially, I was working, if you can bring the next picture, we were doing mainly the initial vaccinations and immunizations and just the checking of all those who had made it out of the country and were staying at Quantico. I also worked at Fort Pickett and later at Fort Dix. This was a very fast-paced project that we did. I'd go at 6 in the morning and we'd be there up until 6 to 7 p.m. It was a time where I would go to work during the day, probably had 10 minutes to eat lunch, and then I'd come home, I'd be so tired and exhausted, go straight to sleep. It was a way for me to kind of keep myself busy so that I didn't think about what was going on at home, but I was at least able to do something for those who had made it out. And the work we did, it started initially as solely as a linguist, helping with the Marines, the Navy, and the U.S. Army with initial check-ins. But then we worked with USCIS, helping do fingerprints, fill out those work authorization applications, and school projects, educational classes, and as well as programs for women and children in various camps and at various capacities. Next. And actually, if you can go back, the picture to the right you see is the corner of my room at Steve and Merle's, these two wonderful people that are sitting in the front. And I'd go to camp during the week, and I'd come home sometimes during the weekend. At the time I was living with Steve and Merle, and we would have just people drop off bags and bags and bags of clothes and shoes and strollers and everything that initially when people had been evacuated in August and they were staying at these camps until December, and so they had come with flip-flops, and you found them now in the winter, dead snow, still with no resources. So I would pick up these bags of clothes and strollers and shoes and take them with me to the camp, and try to distribute it to families. I used to work at these tents with doctors and medical providers, and so if I saw a woman that would come to the doctor and I see that she's wearing a flip-flop and it's snowing, I'd say, come to my car, and I'd take her to the parking lot, and I'd take some of the shoes. As you can see on the far right picture, she's exchanging her flip-flops to a pair of sneakers. And the children, I think they're holding some toys, so I used to bring toys and some lollipops and candies and things like that, and that I think initially for me, it was just seeing those smiles on children's faces, and these families that had, a lot of whom had lives in Afghanistan, and some of the families that we met that I've talked to during those few weeks in the camps, they tell me, we had great lives, and we had homes, and we had families, we used to go on vacations, and now we've come to this place where we feel like we're homeless. And so just being there for a few minutes with them, talking to them, and letting them know that things are going to be better. And I always had a copy of Virginia or DC or Maryland's driver's manual, and I'd say, give me your number, and I just on WhatsApp right away send them the manual and say, while you're waiting here to get out of the camp, study. The minute you're out of here, go take your test, and everything will be okay. Just take your driver's test, get your license, and get a job, and life will be normal again. Yes, you can do next. So at the end of 2022, my work with the military, the 3 military bases that I worked at ended. Then we had a short time of 6 months that they were bringing some families in Leesburg here in Virginia. I worked with them here as well, but then after that ended, we still had a lot of families that were coming, and they still needed help. So some families that needed help furnishing their homes. We had families that, we had single moms, and a lot of the groups that I started working was these more of the vulnerable groups that were coming in through SIVs and refugee resettlement projects. So I started getting people contacting me saying, you know, if I had supported one family and they knew another family that were coming, then they would give them my number and they reach out to me. So I would work with them based on the needs that they had. So I've had people, like single moms that came and they needed help find jobs. So I did a resume did workshops with them, took them to the bank, helped them, you know, learn about the credit cards and the system, taught them how to drive. Through Larry, help them find cars, get their licenses, and through the ICPC, we have supported families, and especially like a lot of the single moms, at least help pay for their 6 months of their insurance premiums, and so they can have a kickstart and then start their life on that on their own. And since that, I've worked with both IC and Larry, and I'm going to allow Larry to talk about what he's been doing and how that all circles back to how we all work together. If you have any questions, I'll be here.
That's going to be hard to follow. I have to say, Irokesh is a real powerhouse. She's like a magnet and attracts all these wonderful people to her, and a lot of them can use help. Into the phone? Is this better? Okay. I won't start over. But I do want to say I'm glad to be here with so many other people who I suspect feel like I do, that helping others is indeed a rewarding and satisfying experience. I do have a nonprofit that's called Bridge the Gap. It's a bona fide 501c3 organization, and I'm engaged with Irokesh in acquiring older cars and fixing them up and getting them in the hands of people who really need them. We've been doing this for 4 years now. We have a goal of doing 1 car per month. Right now, we're on our 55th car. And I don't know if we're doing it right, but at least we're staying on schedule. So, why cars, you might ask? Well, there's several reasons. Number one, the need is pretty great for cars. There are groups here that help get apartments and sometimes help the family get education set up for the children and health. But there's never been anybody for transportation. So that's where I came in. I got some experience working with my hands and my head, and I'm not scared of cars, so that goes a long way. Another reason is because cars, as we all know now, cost $50,000 for a median price. The Wall Street Journal says that the used cars median price has just crossed $20,000. This means that people buying cars have loan payments of $500 to $750 a month for up to 7 years. Many Americans can't afford this, and it keeps them down. People that we work with can't begin to afford it, so there has to be a better way. We happen to believe that one way is using quality older cars that are in good condition. Cars today actually do last longer than they did years ago. Several generations ago, if you had a car that had 50,000 miles on it, you needed to start looking for another car. Today, although they seem more complicated in many ways, a good car, a quality-made car, and I'll talk about that in a minute, can easily go 200,000 miles. As I'm looking for cars, I find a lot of sellers with over 300,000 miles on their cars trying to sell them to somebody else. And apparently they're still working. So, so we acquire our cars through donations, but mostly we buy them right now. We look for cars that have 150,000 miles on them or less. That way they're going to, we think they're going to last for at least 3 years or more for the people who get them. We constantly are searching for Toyotas and Hondas, our two favorite brands, and the ones I'm more experienced with working with myself, too. The maintenance, interestingly, we find seems to average about $100 a month. There might not be anything to do for several months, and then there might be $300, $400, $500. This all assumes that you've got an honest and trustworthy mechanic, because, as we all know, it can get much higher. But we have not been having that experience. We inspect our cars thoroughly when we get them. We perform any repairs that we think should be done to put them in really good shape. We look at the brakes, the battery, the hoses. I happen to have a block right now. we check it over the best we can. Then we are ready to find clients. Clients are referred to us by the organizations that are here today and others. And we require that they fill out an application for us and that we sit down with them in person and talk to them. This gives us a chance to get to know them and to learn their financial situation. We find that not everybody that wants a car can really afford to operate one. Besides gas, you've got insurance, you've got repairs. Annually, you've got some registration to do. And if a person is not working full-time and making at least $18 to $20 an hour, it looks to me like they really can't afford a car. So if they are close to getting a job or have a job and they're just working part-time, they still may not qualify. But if they're willing to work full-time, or we look for people who are willing to work more than that, then we think that they're going to be able to keep the car and move ahead. We attempt to make a partnership out of the project. We try to get the client involved in the process any way we can. We'll have them research for the best insurance quote that they can find. Sometimes we'll charge a little money because we think it reduces the chances of them feeling beholden to us or any guilt that might go along with it. It makes, I think, they feel like they're getting a good deal instead of something just thrown at them.
Showing pictures of your partners local.
Yes, there's a few pictures up there. I'll take a little break from this and tell you about this top picture is a couple that live in this area that were moving down to Florida and no longer needed their car, so they were kind enough to give it to us. I think it was a Subaru, which also is a good car. And down below, I've got a favorite place. I like to take the cars when they need work that I don't do. And this is a young mechanic that worked there, and they actually worked very hard. He didn't have a car, so we started him out with this car.
Because of the previous slide, I think Larry has a story to tell about this young woman.
This woman was very special. I have a policy that I don't travel more than a half hour to pick up a car or to meet with a client. And this woman called one day, and she lives up by Baltimore someplace, about an hour away. She works in a factory at night, a metal factory that makes tin cans. Apparently it's very loud work. And I explained to her that we couldn't do anything for her. She offered to come down to see me And I said, if you want to make the trip, that's fine. I'll interview you. And so we set up a time, and she came down one morning. And when she walked up to the house, I looked out, and there was no car outside. And I asked her how she came down. And she had taken an Uber and paid $85 just to get to my house and plead her case. She was a very hard worker, and it was impossible to say no. I just happened to have a car at the time that was ready to go. We were able to take it to the MVA and get it titled that day. It had been inspected, and we put the license on, and she drove it home that afternoon. That was wonderful. I think that's it for the photos. Yes, 2 more people who got cars who were very happy with them. And there should be 1 more photo. The last person we gave a car to just a week or 2 ago. Was very happy to get it. So once a car is in shape and we have it inspected, we have it insured, and we've researched the client, we'll set up an appointment with the MVA, and then we go with them to the NVA to get them through the process, put the plate on their car, and that's it. They drive away, and sometimes we end up taking an Uber home ourselves. So that wraps it up. So far, we don't have any unsatisfied clients, I'm happy to say. I appreciate having this time to explain how our operation works to you. If you happen to have a car that you don't need or know of anyone that does, we would love to fix it up and pass it on. I'm going to leave some business cards up here. We don't have a website, but I can be contacted on these cards. We'll also be happy to answer any questions that you have or hear of any related experiences that you've had. Thank you.
So, hard act to follow. So, I would like to, before I tell you all what we did, how I met Larry. I don't know whether you remember. We were a good friend of mine got me into volunteering at Nourishing Bethesda, and Larry was always there, and he would also get all the eggs for all the people picking up picking up their groceries that day. The operation is much bigger now and than it was at that time. So this was during the pandemic, and then Afghanistan fell to the Taliban, and suddenly our refugee work was, I got more involved in that again, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So one time Larry came over with this little notebook and he said, so what do you think refugees, you work, which organizations, what you need, I wasn't sure where he was going with that. And then he mentioned, well, if you had money, where would you give it to? What would you do with it? What do they really need? I said, well, besides, a place to live that's furnished and safe, and they really need transportation, because once they get jobs, public transportation just stinks and it's unreliable and takes them, an hour and a half for a 20-minute trip. And then I mentioned a couple organizations that we were working with. And then next thing I knew, he had he was working with Lutheran Social Services, one of the resettlement agencies, and getting cars. And so I'll come back to the cars in a little bit. It's all my fault. But it was, you have to, and I'll come back to that. I'm sure everyone has a talent or a knack for something that can be used for, everybody can use your money, right? So that is, that always works. But something where there is a need and where your gifts are. And Larry told me, he's never had a new car because he likes to fix up old cars and then drive them. and he knows a lot about cars. And so I think this is quite a gift. So we've had meetings from our interfaith refugee group for many years, close to 10 years. And I would always start with a little, and even when we were doing apartment setups, with a little reading. So here it comes. Everybody might roll their eyes, but everybody always listens. So this was around 2021 when a word from an Episcopalian bishop, Michael Curry, caught my eye. It is impossible to know in the moment how a small act of goodness will reverberate through time. The notion is empowering and it isn't frightening because it means that we are all capable of changing the world and responsible for finding these opportunities. And I would like to add, and none of us have to do it on our own. You know, you don't have to find cars and tutor, and no, you don't. So we started our group. We had a small group, as we do at Bradley Hills, in 2016, and the theme was welcoming the stranger. You know, it's in every religious text from our three faiths. And there was a woman, Janet Ballantyne, who said, "So why don't we do something about that?" And everybody said, "Yeah, that would be nice." Well, Janet was a Peace Corps volunteer. So was Evelyn, and they already knew each other, and they had already done the groundwork of partnering with a resettlement agency and to maybe look into supporting a refugee family. So while there were a lot of people who were interested at the time, there was this picture that you might all remember of this Syrian boy washed up on the shore. So there was a lot of interest in refugees. Well, refugees did not start in 2016, but once we educated ourselves, there were 60 million. So we helped to begin with one family, but it made a difference for that family. And now there are over 100 million. So it was interesting to get educated on that whole issue of refugees. So Evelyn and Marty and some other members from BJC and Janet had already done some background work. And next thing I knew, I was co-chair of the Interfaith Refugee Support Group. It's never a good time if you want to get involved. You know, at the time I was in a practice, we were about to be grandparents, I had an aging mother in Germany, and everybody had something going on. Since then, we've helped, if I counted correctly, 6 families. You know, some of them we found apartments, we co-signed leases, we meaning somebody from the board. We raised funds. I think over the years we raised over $100,000. This was not given by the institutions, but by private individuals. There are quite a few people here in this room who've been part of this. We oriented them to our community. We helped find jobs, wrote resumes. We enrolled the kids in school. We communicated with the teachers. We made sure there were translators. The list. So you can see there were many pieces involved. So we had, in the beginning, we had 2 families and 1 individual. And that was 2017. I was the kids' pediatrician and also organized the other medical appointments. And then we sort of, during the pandemic, Evelyn ordered plenty of beds for Lutheran Social Services. There were still some people coming in, but even under the last Trump administration, they were, it was much, much reduced. And then we were sort of wondering what we should do with the money that was left over. Well, and then Afghanistan fell. And suddenly you heard from Iraq, that was actually interesting to hear from you, when the people came into these camps, sometimes in other countries. And we said, okay, we were going to partner with Kind Works to set up apartments, but then this fell through, and we said, okay, let's do it. I can tell you they don't teach you that in medical school or in any other school that I'm aware of. So we started, and many of you donated like a dining room table. And many other goods. Linda, by the way, for the first family and beyond, did all the health care, talking to the insurances, all that, all the setup. And then the second time around, 2021, her husband got involved. He's sitting back there, and and then we set up 9 apartments that the resettlement organizations found, and we, got all there's a State Department list. We got all the stuff together and rented a truck that my husband, and we hired a guy to help us carry the furniture. So we did this for about six months. And then we said, okay, shall we do another family? And we had another group that formed to help that family. Now, we were used to family with children. This was a family with 2 adult daughters, one of whom ended up having very special needs and needed surgery. So my own involvement, besides co-chairing these committees and try, we were keeping track, and Evelyn writes great notes, which is really good if you have to look back at. But everybody also did what they said they were going to do, which was really wonderful. We had a retired social worker, we had lawyers, we had economists who did financial education and helped them set up bank accounts. I mean, we really had, we had healthcare economists. That would be Linda, I think I got that right. So we had it covered. And lawyers, because the second family came under, a lot of people were evacuated so quickly, they didn't have their green cards like the SIVs had. They had to apply for asylum and then eventually for green cards. So that's where Gary Sampliner came and Stephen Turow came in, who helped them apply first for asylum and ushered them to that whole process. And we found volunteer translators because they didn't speak any English. So this would be the Ahmadi family. And then they also needed a car, and that's where Larry came in. And the father did not speak English, and Larry definitely does not speak Dari, but they communicated quite well over cars because Mohammed really knew cars. There's a communication that goes on beyond words. As you all know, there are many people who were waiting in other countries, so they were still trickling in. I have been mainly involved in the last year with the family with their medical. So we have another family in Hyattsville that we've just phased out our support. So I've been mainly involved in their setting up medical appointments and taking them to medical appointments, getting them through surgeries. One woman, she had a pretty significant procedure. She spent the night before and after her surgery at our house. My husband is still setting up homes with apartments with Homes Not Borders, an organization that we've partnered with. They are also doing food support, if that interests you. So there are lots of opportunities now still to help people. We probably would not be doing it through finding another group that helps newly arrived families, because there are not that many newly arrived families, but there are families who are here, and a lot of them need more help than ever because their benefits are being reduced or non-existent, or they could get them, but they have to reapply, or they have to appeal because there is so much confusion in the DHS office. People need help getting to medical appointments. If childcare is your thing, there is a group, SHC, Solution with Hometown Connections, and I think Larry has been involved with them also. They do tutoring for women and children and empowering women and children. Well, it's a 2 generation, so they do English classes. So if tutoring is your thing, I can put you in touch with them. If you want to work with the children during the time when the mothers are being instructed, they have a mobile van now, and they also meet in libraries both in Silver Spring and in PG County. So you can play with the children. So there are really a lot of opportunities. If you would like to be involved with food, Homes Not Borders, yes, they are still setting up apartments, but on Saturdays they are also organizing bags of food that they bring to families who've lost SNAP or need more food, mostly in the PG County area, but on Saturdays traffic is not so bad. So those would sort of be, did I forget anything about things that you can do if you want to? Oh yes, so these are pictures from our home setup. Here's Tasmia. So when we did these apartments, we also provided food. And when you tell Tasmia to do something, she does it 150%. So the pantry was full, and she would bring these wonderful trays of warm food, which was just a real blessing for people who often have been at that time, they were in these camps. Sometimes in Germany, there was one family of 6 who had been for 3 months in Germany, and she saw a bed. She says she hasn't slept in a real bed for several months, and the kids started playing immediately with the toys that we put there. And her first question was, "Is there a pressure cooker?" So after that, we knew we always had to, if there was an Afghan family, there had to be a pressure cooker in each home. And then this is the Ahmadi family that Larry provided a car for, and that we've been quite involved with, and they are doing very well. Actually, all the families we've helped are doing very well. They have jobs. A couple of them had more babies, where Evelyn drove to almost all the prenatal appointment with Olfat. One of the families, I'm actually going this week to an IEP meeting with their daughter who needs some extra help. So we stay involved with these, and it's really a gift that they let us into their families, and we've had lots of teas. We've celebrated. We've had parties. So it is not a drudgery. It's there's the main frustration comes with all the administrative stuff, But it's a gift to get to know the people you work with and the people you are helping.
So I don't have any slides because I'm not going to talk about all the stuff we've been doing and try to move us to look at where we are. I mean, in 2016, there were lots of refugees coming in, and that was really most of the crisis, and you've heard versions of what we've done. And yes, it's been fun, but it's been really intense as well. So everybody comes with trauma. Everybody has foregone education, foregone health care, and all kinds of issues, which has, I think, brought our community closer together as well, as we've struggled and how do you help this family. So, excuse me, this has nothing to do, this is just my voice. I'm sorry. Yeah, I have one. But it really has brought our communities much closer together because we've worked as teams in trying to figure out what to do with whatever the specific situation is. So I'm just going to rattle off quickly where we are now and why we need to do something to address the current situation. And I'm going to just read some of these bullets. Over the last year, federal immigration agents patrolling in U.S. cities and towns have shot 16 people. We know that 2 of them died. There might have been others as well. Very few people other than white South Africans are allowed to come into the country. Now the travel ban covers nearly all temporary classes of travelers from 39 countries. The administration ended temporary protective status for people from specific countries, which gave them access to supports, and so their situation is totally up in the air. Administration has cut funding for refugee assistance programs, and those of us who've worked with all of those know that they were not adequately funded, and refugee agencies were struggling before. But now all of that's gone, so the initial financial support for families coming in isn't there. The case management is minuscule if it exists at all. The big, beautiful bill restricts Medicaid, SNAPs, food stamps, and child tax credits to newcomers and many other people. The only people who can receive these benefits are basically green card holders, and there's somewhat of a catch-22. After you've been here a year, you have to, by law, apply to become a green card holder. And so Gary and others are helping recent families apply for green cards. The problem is that they're not processing any green cards or any asylum applications, so then by definition, you're not eligible for the benefits. Administration is denying civil rights to people who are already here and who are facing deportations. Gary pointed out to me an Operation Paris, which was used heavily in Minnesota, basically picks up people in one place, transports them to another. This was to Texas, and then when they find out that, in fact, there's nothing to hold them for, they just put them out on the street with whatever money they had in their pocket when they were arrested. So they're stuck there until somebody can move them away, help them get back. Administration rescinded longstanding policies barring arrests in sensitive locations. We are in a sensitive location, so an ICE agent can come in here, or they are doing it in places, and arresting people or dragging them out, and that's educational institutions, hospitals, as well as religious places of worship. The IRS and Social Security now share data with ICE to identify and target individuals for removal. An executive order attempted to end birthright citizenship for children of undocumented parents. This is still being litigated. It's in the courts, but it's a threat to a lot of families that have children. A lot of the ones that we worked with have children born in this country. It's also set up quotas to strip citizenship from 100 to 200 naturalized citizens every month based on fraud allegations. So they have targets, and by God, they're going to find people who they can arrest for all of that. So there's a lot going on, and I just wrote this down, and I kept adding to it, just to say there's this amazing service, Church World Services, issues daily updates now. It's called State of Play. They work with other organizations, so nobody's working by themselves at this point. A lot of organizations are working together. But I personally have found State of Play extremely useful. And once you get on your mailing list, you get it, I think it's every day or every other day. Once a week, they have it in multiple languages directed at immigrants themselves. So that's really useful. International Refugee Assistance Project, IRAP, also has information and provides reliable sources of information. ACLU, other organizations. So, try to get hooked up and just see what it is, because when you listen to the news, there are always little bits of it, and you try to understand that. So what can we do about all of this? I volunteered for this position because I feel I have to do something, and I seem to be the rabble-rouser here. So a couple of weeks ago, we issued the ICPC, and they're overlapping directorates, if you've noticed. ICPC and the Refugee Project at least have two of us in both, so it kind of gets mixed together. But we put notices in each of our newsletters about things that you could do, and we said, here are 3 ways that you can help. I know Bradley Hills distributed yesterday in a bulletin, and we've made copies out front, kind of a little updated from that article, because again, things keep changing. But so I wanted to talk about 2 of the ways, because Brigitte really talked about the first way, which is helping individual families with their needs. As intense and as difficult and as gratifying as it's been in the past, it's just going to be that much harder, because the refugee agencies aren't there, because the benefits are being cut, because all of the supports that we grumbled about for the last 10 years about how inadequate they were, well, they're even less inadequate, less adequate now. So all of that work needs to continue. The second way that we identified is through advocacy. Advocacy at the county level, at the state level, at the national level, through our religious affiliations as individuals, as part of coalitions. And that work basically includes things such as writing letters to your elected officials. Very often when you get these sign-on letters, you just put in your zip code and it pops up who your state representative is, who your congressional representative is, the senators, and you kind of push a button. Sometimes it's more complicated than that. Meeting with elected officials up on the Hill. On the 25th, there's a whole interfaith group meeting up on the Hill. I know Bridget Gray goes to Annapolis. So people in our congregations are doing some of that. Demonstrating on the streets to show resistance, to raise awareness. And, people always ask, does it make a difference? It helps you let off steam. It does form groups. And it does educate people. I was standing on a street corner in Honolulu. Some of you know my daughter lives there, so I spent the last couple of months there. And a guy came up to me who totally disagreed with us, but we spent 15 minutes having a civil conversation about why those of us on the street were objecting. And I think, had we talked another 20 minutes, I might have changed his mind. I don't know. But he was engaged and he wanted to learn, and I think you have those kinds of things that happen. The third way of participating, I jumped over the most important thing. Gary Sampliner, raise your hand for those who don't know, is very much involved in advocacy through a number of coalitions and has volunteered to organize us, support us, provide information, getting you on mailing lists, whatever. So Gary is the person to go to for all of that. And depending on how many people it is, we can figure out specific things that we want to do. The third way is by participating in what I'd call street-level resistance. And I think it's probably three broad categories. One is teaching immigrants their rights. The ACLU has these cards. I just happened to find some left over. They're usually called red cards, I thought, but these are blue, so I'm not sure exactly why. But they have cards in many languages. You can print them out. They produce them. You can get them through the ACLU. Teaching not only the immigrants themselves, but religious institutions, how they can protect people, employers, how they can protect people. They can't prevent somebody from coming into the store, but they can prevent somebody from going to back room for employee-only lunchroom, for example. So there are examples such as that. And a big part of knowing your rights at the moment, and they're so labeled for lots of things, is for people who are actually helping immigrants in court hearings and monitoring, what ICE is doing out in the streets and those kinds of things. So there's a lot of training that's being provided about knowing your rights as a volunteer, knowing the rights of immigrants, and knowing of, and helping other people understand what they can do themselves. As I mentioned, the ACLU does a lot of work in this area. And Georgetown University, in coalition with other organizations, is providing virtual training for resistors on February 19th. So today is Monday, so I guess that's Thursday, from 2 to 3. And it's an online training that you can sign up for. It's, Gary, do you have the link to that Georgetown? I think I still have the link to the Georgetown University training. Yeah, anyway, if you're interested, you can just type in Georgetown University, or we can help you get some of that. Another way of resisting is by documenting abuses, taking videos, alerting people that ICE agents are in the neighborhood. a lot of the kinds of things that we saw people do in Minnesota, but it's being done in other cities as well. Minnesota is the one where it was the most visible, and there was a lot of news about that, but there are people in all the communities doing this work. Prince George's County has lots and lots and lots of immigrants, and so a lot of work needs to be done there as well as Montgomery County. So that's a whole group. There's a group called the Rapid Response ICE Watch Group, and they are the ones who do a lot of organizing around that kind of activity. Another way of helping is accompanying immigrants to court hearings and immigration hearings, things like that. There's a group called DAN, the DMV, not Department of Motor Vehicle, but District Maryland, Virginia Accompaniment Network, and they train volunteers to become accompaniers to, somebody requests help in getting to a court hearing, going with them to provide support for these people. After volunteers are trained and vetted, they receive information from Dan about specific requests, so you don't have to sign up to do it all of the time. But if, the note will go out the day or two before saying, somebody needs to be accompanied to such a court hearing, and then you can sign up for it. So in a way, it's like Homes Not Borders, where you don't have to sign up for every single thing on a regular basis, but when you can do it, you do it, but you have to go through training. And I just emphasize that going through training is important, because as we can see, as we've seen, there's serious consequences for a lot of this. So you want to know how to protect yourself, you want to know how to protect the people you're trying to help, and just to stay informed about all of that. BJC is going to have a refugee Shabbat on March 13th, and that's organized by HIAS. And HIAS actually has a lot of very useful material. There's an action guide for congregations and communities that covers a lot of that. So you can go online and see that, and because they are doing the same kind of thing and trying to reach out. We're doing it on an interfaith basis. They're doing it through the Jewish community, but very much involved in the broader movement as well. So there are lots of ways of doing things, and as Brigitte said, now's the time. I would add, if not now, when? How much more has to happen before we take action? That doesn't mean everybody has to do it. As we said, there are lots of ways to get involved, but at least some of us feel that we need to stand on street corners and yell and scream and do other things as well. So with that, I'd like to just open it up for discussion.
Yes, we're going to open it up to questions. So those of you who are joining us via Zoom, you just type your questions. While you do that, I would like to give a few minutes to Dr. Ahmed, who's here and who's also been one of the boards of MIIC, Montgomery County Center, and he would like to tell us a little about how the MIIC has been involved with the Zakal Foundation and helping with the refugee populations as well.
Irish, do you mind? So that the people
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I know you're eager to get on, so I'll make this very short. The Islamic American Zakat Foundation has been helping poor and needy people in the United States since 1986. And we help all kinds of people. Refugees make up maybe 30% of the people that we help. We help anyone anywhere in the United States, although because we're located here, most of the people tend to be in the DMV area. So I would just want to tell you, mention 4 examples of people that we've helped lately to give you an idea of the kind of work that we're doing. But before I do that, I want to mention that we were entering an agreement with the Maqam Ibrahim Islamic Center, so that what's going to happen is that when they get anybody who's in need, they will refer them to us, and they will also help to raise money for us, for our activities. Recently, we helped an unemployed woman and her daughter who were both victims of domestic abuse, and we gave them helped them with a down payment so they could move into their own place and be safe. We helped the unemployed mother of 3 minors with a security deposit so they could move into a home. We helped an Afghan refugee family, the unemployed parents of 5 children. The husband is disabled and uses a prosthetic leg, which limits his ability to work, and the wife is illiterate. So we helped them to avoid eviction by contributing to their rent. And finally, we recently helped an unemployed Ukrainian refugee parents of a 7-year-old with their rent. I'm going to mention also that we help a lot of Hispanic people, so it's not, the money is not just going to help Muslim refugees, but all kinds of people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And like our colleagues mentioned, the help is still going on. Like just 3 months ago, I heard about a family that's now settled in Gaithersburg, Maryland. So I've been visiting them often and helping them, you know, with bank accounts and getting the kids into school. The father is still, he just had his permit test, so he passed it, and we're practicing with him to get his license and whatnot. So there are still families that are arriving very slowly, those who already had their visas before the ban. So now they had to borrow money and just get their tickets themselves, versus in the past where IOM would purchase their tickets and come, and now they're just having to do it themselves. So if you want to get involved, you know, we have a lot of ways that you can, resources that you can help support. I'll open the floor up to questions. Yes, Merle.
This is a service that development has taken a lot of advantage of.
Sorry.
So many of the communities here, well, I speak very loudly.
Well, you don't know if the people
All right, is it on? Yes. Yeah, all right. Most of the communities around here have what we call listservs. And there's the BCC listserv. I live in Rollingwood. There's the Rollingwood listserv. And you can go on there and say, we're looking for cars, and people often can give you the kinds of things. I know Arosha's gotten furniture, she's gotten pots and pans, she's gotten so many things just from the 2 listservs that she's on. And they're in all these neighborhoods, and it really would pay to look into them because people are downsizing, people want to get rid of stuff, and they don't know how to do it. So it's really worth looking into the listservs.
Thank you so much. This was just incredibly inspiring, and, you know, making so many prayers for all of you and for everyone involved in this incredible work. Kind of following on from that question, so one thing I've seen, you know, is things like the DC Migrant Mutual Aid Group, where you can fill out a form if you have something to donate. And so I was just wondering if there is something like that for this community, if people want to donate something, is there kind of like a wish list, like an Amazon wish list, or is there, you know, a form people can fill out if they have furniture or other items they would like to donate that can then get kind of sent to you guys and you can get in touch with anyone? Because that would just be one useful thing. The second thing I was going to say, so my name's Sadia. I work for an organization called the Women's Refugee Commission, actually, based between DC and New York. So we do research and advocacy on global humanitarian refugee crises, but also we have a body of work looking at refugee and immigration abuses for women in the US. So I work on the global humanitarian side, but just in terms of resources, I know my colleagues who work on domestic immigration and refugee support have a number of resources which I think may be helpful for anyone working with refugees. So we have a whole load of guidelines for families at risk of family separation, especially children being separated. So how to prepare your families for separation, what to do when you're in a situation of separation. We've also launched something recently called the Pregnancy Detention Tracker, so to really track instances of pregnant women who've been detained by ICE and to track where they're being taken to, whether they're getting the nutrition support, the medical support they need, etc. Because we're not getting access to those detention centers anymore, ICE is obviously not sharing any of the information. They're saying that they're providing everything that women need. We know that's not true. So we're really working with, you know, chaplains, with healthcare workers, with lawyers, anyone who has access to people who've been taken into detention to just try and track that data. So we're using that data, A, for kind of research and advocacy, but, you know, taking it to the Hill, we're taking it to members of Congress, we're taking it to state leaders, state political leaders as well, to advocate for those women. And there's been situations where we've been able to get women released from detention, where we find out that they're pregnant and not having their needs met. So I just wanted to mention that, and if anyone wants more information about those resources, please let me know. I'd be happy to share them with you as well.
That's great. Yeah, I'm sure we can benefit from the link. And regarding the forum, so from my experience, the families that I've worked with since 2021, is when I visit families, I go and I get a list of all their needs. So they need bedding, they need school supplies, kitchen supplies and whatnot. Then my initial thought is I go to my listservs, I reach out to the neighbors. You know, the other day, Meryl was telling a story. She's like, she wanted to sew a button on Steve's shirt, and she found out she had given away all of her sewing supplies. I remember every time I would come to Meryl asking for a pot, for a pan, for a jacket, she'd just go in her closet and just take it out and say, take it, I can have one. And I feel like it was the same for a lot of people who just really poured in so much love and care for these families that were new here. So I usually reach out to my listservs, and I'll pick up a microwave here, I'll pick a pot here, I'll pick up a pan here, and I'll drop it off to the families. Once I've, you know, gotten some of the stuff from the list through families, then I create a wish list on Amazon, and I spread that on the listservs and say, okay, I've gotten some of this from families, but these are some of the items like school supplies or hygiene items that then families have ordered them directly from Amazon, and it's been delivered to the families that are in need. Thank you.
Maybe we should talk about. So I mentioned Homes Not Borders. So if you have a family who's moving like out of temporary housing, or they were living with relatives and they are now finally getting their own apartment and need it furnished, that's actually what Homes Not Borders does. And Dave, maybe you want to talk about, you did a setup today, maybe just talk about what they do. So after we did our 9 apartments, we thought it was so much fun, so we continued setting up apartments. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Both of us have done quite a bit of work with Homes Not Borders. It's a very, I think, good 501c3 organization. And during the, I think they really took off during the major exodus from Afghanistan. And initially, the primary function was furnishing apartments, not just with furniture, but bedding, housewares, you know, cleaning supplies, everything to outfit a kitchen, you know, dishes and the like. And a lot of that, much of that is donated items, but they're also purchased new items. For example, you know, beds and bedding, they all provide new, not used. So those are purchased using donated funds. So, I mean, what we've primarily done is set up apartments. They have a warehouse out in Prince George's County in Landover, where they, you know, collect donated items and the purchased items, and then, you know, you load up the truck and cars and go out and set things up in the apartments. Back in the day, during the period before the doors were shut, you know, there were multiple apartments set up, you know, every week. It's slowed down currently because, you know, fewer people are being allowed to get into the country. But there are still some setups. I did one today for an Egyptian family that, you know, was recently settled here. And, you know, unfortunately, since the refugee resettlement agencies are no longer being funded, you know, rather than having assistance in getting housing and financial assistance and the rent and so on, these are mainly people these days who, by one way or another, have been able to find their own apartments, but they come over typically without anything except the clothes they're wearing and just, a few items. So they still need, the furnishings and all the other things that go with it. But, more recently, because there's less activity, fewer people being resettled, they pivoted a little bit and are trying to do some other activities, social services, assistance with employment, tutoring, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
well, I guess my point was, if you have a whole apartment, they can do a drop-off, and then you can do sort of the fine points, because I have to say, they do bare bones depending on what came in, and had to give up one of their warehouses, so there isn't as much. It doesn't move as fast as it used to. But our basement used to look like a warehouse because the neighbors would just drop off stuff, and then we would either have Homes Not Borders drop it off, bring it to refugee families, but yeah, listservs are a great way to get things, but keep Homes Not Borders in mind.
Okay, any questions on Zoom? No? Okay. A question here.
Bridget, you mentioned the churches. Thank you. You mentioned the churches, the work that they've been doing over the years, and you said there was a lack of funding now. But you were talking about some of the, well, resettlement agencies, that's right. So they don't have the funding anymore? Like the Lutheran, wasn't there the Lutheran community? Okay.
in IRC, International Refugee.
Catholic Charities was in D.C. and Pius was more in Baltimore, but it's all IRC is here in this area, and ICPC is here in.
Well, but they all have staff that were funded to all of this. Actually, the daughter of one of the families we helped was laid off, worked for one of these agencies and was laid off, and so they have a lot of dowry speakers and, provided support. That's basically gone, there are little bits of support that they can provide, but they've had to lay off people.
So my question is, how can we replicate that in a volunteer way? I know that they had the money, but there seems to be a lot of effort among human resources who want to help. There may be.
That's what we're talking about. So, that's what we basically been doing for 10 years, is with a lot of volunteers from, all the organizations, all the congregations have been doing that. We had a team that did the welcoming, and we had the tutoring team, and we had.
Can we still do that? That's what, you kind of left it, yeah. Is it possible to still do it? Okay, so who can organize that?
Well, they're not.
I didn't ask you if you can do it. I'm wondering who could. Are there other organizations? Or there are some that still exist that can pick up?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's NIA, the New Neighbors Interfaith Alliance, and actually, I think Shanaz has joined the NIC, because there used to be an organization in Kern. This was back in 2016, and they are the same people, because we had them here talk to our Or you can just talk to a roach and Dean, because of where they're situated. You know, people approach them. Yeah, we went out back then to find them, and then LSS knew us, and they came to us and, you know, and asked us. But you don't have to go out and look for people. People know you are providing the support. So if, you know, you give your names to Roche or Dean, or, you know, oh, this person needs a ride, or, you know, can you send a message to your listserv, I need these things. You know, right? I don't want to speak for you, but, you know.
If you want to tutor, if you want to teach English, I have a family right now waiting in Petersburg. Yeah.
So maybe you could create a list of some of us who will come and approach you of how to email us and let us know what you need. Some organized way. That's what I was trying to look for from what you were telling us. And I think what I also would like to add, that it would be helpful with all of that you just read about, if we could have that printed up in some way.
It is.
Oh, okay.
It's a handout there.
Oh, the handout.
It's a little updated.
I didn't get to look at it.
Yes.
Okay.
It's basically there, and it's in the newsletter as well.
That's great. That's great.
We also have refreshments and snacks, so if you guys want to help yourself with that and chat, we can do that as well. Would you guys look at that? And, yes.
So, Larry, the cars, that's wonderful to know that we have supplied so many cars. Yeah, I'm talking to you. And so when you get the cars, are you looking for donation, a car as a donation, and then you fix it, or you just buy it on?
We do take donations, but the majority of our cars we actually pay for.
Okay.
The nonprofit has some money.
Okay, so you run as a nonprofit, and through that, because we have a listserv, we can also get the word out that we are looking for car as a donation, and then we can pass it to you.
Yes.
Yeah, we can do that.
I had forgotten to mention it.
Okay.
On average, our cars cost us about $5,000, and then maybe another $1,000 to get them fixed up.
Yeah.
So we average about $6,000 a car.
And do you happen to have a mechanics?
Do we have enough money?
And the mechanics, yeah.
We don't hire mechanics. We take it to different garages depending on what's wrong.
Okay, so you know all those. Okay, and then about the follow-up with her questions, we can have like a just simple sign-up list. One for you said the organization that where we can work, or any volunteer wants to work with them. We can have that as a list, and then also on the sign-up list, like I know lots of people looking to help food for another Afghan family, or they can have some kind of exchange of communications that these are the things are needed and this is what we can provide. We can just maintain, you can pass it to me. I do our Makam Ibrahim's newsletter. I can make it a part of it and let it go from there.
I mean, there's always ongoing activities. In the last month, we had a really unfortunate accident in Silver Spring. And so I went and visited both families. The family lost a 15-year-old daughter. Another family had a daughter that went into coma. So both families were Afghans. One had just arrived, I think, a couple of years ago. The other one longer. And so we had, through MMIC, we ordered some hot meals for the family of the girl who passed away. And for the other family, I personally went, sat down with the mother. She had been living in an infested home, and she had to throw away a lot of her stuff. So we got in touch with Homes Not Borders in Iraq, and they furnished the whole house for the family and got them new beds for the girl that was in coma and had come out of it. So we always have through ongoing activities and donations that's sent to MIIC or other groups, that we can use those funds to help with these families that have challenges along the way. And before I end it, I want to with Afghan culture, we're a very culture of poets and poems. So I want to end this with a poem, if you all don't mind. And this is by a 13th century poet named Sadi Shirazi. And he says, in Farsi, he says, Bani Adam a'zای یکدیگرند که در آفرینش ز یک گوهرند. چو عضوی به درد آورد روزگار، دیگر عضوها را نماند قرار. And I will read the meaning in English. Human beings are members of a whole in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. And when I help these families, a lot of times I think, what if this was happening to me? And I would want somebody to help me. And because I've kind of personally experienced what people have experienced, I'm a refugee myself, and I've kind of gone through this path of finding a lawyer, applying for asylum, applying for a green card. I just feel like even a moment we spend with these families, it means the world to them. And so the fact that all of you put your time to come here today, I really appreciate it. So thank you so much. We have snacks outside, so help yourself.